video is sponsored by MPB. It's new hobby season. It's a new year. Perhaps you're starting photography for the very first time, or perhaps you're looking to get back into it and get inspired again. I thought it'd be the perfect time to go through, if I was starting photography in 2026 on a bit of a budget, these are the kits that I would personally build. I've got something for the very budget conscious all the way up to some bougie options, so let's get stuck in. Let's start with some very small, very budget friendly options. If you're looking for an everyday carry camera that you can take around with you but don't want to break the bank, I would pick the Lumix GX800 or the Lumix GF7. Both of them have all the bells and whistles that you would need on a budget. So you have a touchscreen, you have a flippy screen, it shoots RAW, it's a micro four thirds mount, so there's loads of lenses that you can choose from. And I'll cover some lens options later on in the video. The reason I think these are the best value in this sort of category is there are a plethora of Lumix cameras that are small, and some of them are ridiculously pricey. For example, we have the Lumix GM1, which is the smallest interchangeable lens camera on the Micro Four Thirds system, or it was at the time of launch. And then you have the Lumix GM5, which is very sought after to the point where I own two of them, just in case one of them breaks. And it's the smallest Micro Four Thirds camera with an EVF. So these are notorious, they are legendary, and they are blooming expensive at times. However, you'll see side by side that the GX800 and the GF7 are very, very similar in terms of size. Yes, they're slightly bigger, but it's not the end of the world. And these two have flippy up screens versus the other two which don't. And 100% the image quality would be identical from all of them, because I think they even all have the same 16 megapixel sensor built in. In terms of image quality, they're the same, but you will get them for over half the price of these sort of flagship tiny cameras. The GF7 in particular comes in some fun colours, like I have this little pink one, which is really cute, and they're both really blooming good. While they are very similar, if you're wondering what the difference is, the GX800 is just the slightly newer version, and I think you get 4K video in that one, whereas you don't in the other one. But I think for these sorts of discussions, we're thinking about photography first, in which case they're pretty much identical. Another great option is the Olympus PL6, or any of the PL cameras, to be honest. I think there's like 10 of them, and obviously the higher up you go, the more expensive they get because they're a little bit newer, but they're all good stuff. The PL series in the Olympus lineup stands for Pen Light. The pen being like the Pen F, which is like, you know, one of the most iconic Micro Four Thirds cameras that you can get. These PL cameras are like the model beneath those. So you have very nice build quality and it's very pocketable, but more sort of mid-range consumer-friendly spec. So the differences between the Olympus and the Lumix ones that I've recommended, there's pros and cons to both. The Olympus ones, the PL ones, have IBIS. It's only sort of 3-axis stabilization, but it's better than not having it. And I do think the build quality is a lot more sturdy on the Olympus versus these two Lumix offerings. But in my experience, and your mileage may vary, I find the menus in the Lumix ones to be much more modern and user-friendly, particularly if you're a beginner. The Olympus ones, they get the job done. You just find that you're hunting around for certain things in the menus a little bit more, and they do feel a little bit more dated comparatively, even though they came out sort of around the same time. So those are my budget options, and as always, prices do fluctuate on the used market, but we're talking super budget, like £200 or under. If any camera or lens in this video has caught your eye so far, then make sure to check out the sponsor of today's video, MPB. MPB are the world's largest platform for buying, selling and trading all of your camera equipment. And I use them all the blooming time, actually. More for buying than selling, because I am a bit of a camera hoarder, but they are great for selling too. What I love about them is you do get absolute peace of mind. Every piece of gear is properly inspected by their experts, and every photograph on the website is of that specific camera that you will receive. So you can properly check out the condition of anything that you buy before you commit. So it's so seamless to buy. You don't have to haggle with anyone. It's super reliable, and you've got all the peace of mind that you could ask for. If you'd like to see what MPB can do for you, I've got links for the UK, US and EU in the description. You can maybe price up some of the things that I've talked about in this video. They've been a long-term supporter of this channel, and I absolutely love them and use them loads personally, which is why I love talking about them on here. So let's get back to the nerdiness. If you want something a little bit swankier, then I would look towards the Lumix GX7. I recently took this to Corfu and had a blooming great time with it. It's a beautiful camera, and what it adds to the mix is you have an articulating screen and also an EVF, and you also have stabilization as well for photography. And it has the most clunky, adorable shutter sound I've ever heard. It's a proper tactile, nice camera. It's got a better grip, and you do have extra front and back dials as well, which is an important thing if you're looking for a tactile experience. On the smaller Lumix cameras that I was talking about prior to this, you have often what I call the spinny wheel of doom on the back, and it's fine, it gets the job done, but having a front and back dial, so one for shutter speed and one for aperture or vice versa, means that you have access to your settings a lot more intuitively. And that's what the GX7 offers above and beyond the first picks, and you can still get the GX7 for really, really cheap. On the Olympus side, on the sort of mid-range options, I would urge you to check out the EM5 line. What makes these stand out is they've basically had the same design since the first one. I own the first one. It's gorgeous, and it's proper metal build, and it's just, oh, it looks like a little film camera, so it is a lot more pretty than the GX7. Definitely. You still have an EVF, you have articulating screens, and the trick up the sleeve of this range of cameras is they're all weather sealed. Now, we are buying older cameras, so, you know, how weather sealed they remain 10 years down the line is always up for debate, but I would rather have it than not if I'm expecting to, say, take these cameras hiking, or, you know, you get caught in the rain, caught in the snow. The Olympus EM5 range all the way up to when it changes to the OM5 range, that's like the new version of this, they're all weather sealed. They all have brilliant stabilization, they all have all the bits and bobs that you would need. And 2 dials as well, just like the GX7. So before we move on to some bougier options, let's discuss lenses. The reason that I've chosen Micro Four Thirds cameras in particular, well, it's Micro Four Nerds channel, so, you know, it's kind of in the name and I'm a big fan of them. But the other reason is there's so many lens options and they're all cross brands. So if you, for instance, started photography today in 2026 and you chose a Lumix GX800 and a prime lens, which I'll talk about, then maybe 6 months down the line, you might want to upgrade your camera body. You can take the lens with you onto your next camera, even if it's an Olympus camera or an OM system camera, because they all share the same lens mount. And another top tip, the nerds amongst you will know this already, but if you are new to photography, this is a really valuable bit of advice. There are 2 types of lenses, generally speaking. You have a prime lens, which has a fixed focal length and it doesn't zoom in or out. And then you have the zoom lenses, which give you more sort of versatility. 9 times out of 10, if not 10 times out of 10, you will get better image quality from a prime lens compared to a zoom lens. That's because prime lenses are designed to do one thing very, very well, and zoom lenses are a priority for versatility. You might need a wide shot, you might need a zoom shot, and it can do all of this stuff pretty well, but it's like a jack of all trades, master of none sort of scenario. And that sort of divide is exponentially more apparent if you're looking at older lenses in particular. I much prefer prime lenses than zoom lenses. I think at some point down the line, having a zoom lens just to keep in your bag is always handy. But if I was starting now as a beginner, I would pick a prime lens that's tiny and sharp and wonderful and cheap. What's not to love? So my first option in the ultra budget prime lens is the Lumix 14mm f2.5. It's utterly ridiculous. It looks like the size of an Oreo, and it will work on Olympus or Lumix, as I've said. So any of the cameras and lenses that I'm talking about will all work with each other. And this gives you a 28mm equivalent focal length. This is a little bit wide for my taste, but it's a very, very popular focal length. The Ricoh GR series of cameras has a 28mm lens, and that's an incredibly popular everyday carry camera. And that sort of lens means that you will be able to get quite in and amongst the action. You'll be able to get group photos, you'll be able to get photos of like full buildings. It's a very nice, semi-wide sort of focal length. And it's a great one to start out with. And this lens is stupidly affordable. You can find them in abundance on the used market usually, and usually for around £125-ish at the time of filming this video, but of course these things fluctuate. Now, what focal length you might gravitate towards really does come with time and experience. So starting with something that's tried and true, like the 28mm, is a really good option because you might use it for 6 months and fall in love with it, job done. Or you might be like me where you think, I'm finding that I'm cropping in to most of my images, which is a great indicator that you might need something a bit more zoomed in. Which leads me to my next choice, which is my personal favourite. And that is, of course, the Lumix 20mm f1.7, which gives us a 40mm equivalent focal length. This is what the Ricoh GRX series of cameras is. That's their focal length. So the 28 and the 40 seem to be a lot of like very popular focal lengths for everyday carry and street photography, which is why I think these two recommendations are ideal for beginners. I personally prefer this sort of focal length because I don't know, maybe I'm a little bit more standoffish or shy, you wouldn't think it, when I'm out and about shooting, and the 40mm gives you like, you can be a couple of steps back from the action and still get a really good shot. And it's not too zoomed in to the point where you can't get nice photographs of your friends or your pets or whatever. It's a great focal length. This lens will be ideal for walkabout stuff, street photography, photos of friends and family, but it's not a lens that I would recommend if you are regularly chasing after your dog to get photos or chasing after a toddler. It is a little bit older, but what it lacks with that, it more than makes up for in sharpness and just amazingness. The two lenses that I've used the most as an everyday carry enthusiast last year are the OM System 17 and 25mm f1.8s. These are weather sealed, they are tiny, they are modern, fast, gorgeous lenses, and the image quality is stunning. But they are quite pricey because they are quite new. One benefit of the 17mm in particular is there is an older version, the Olympus 17 f1.8, and that one, because the new version's out, has just dropped in price loads. You do lose the weather sealing, but otherwise it's a damn good bargain choice. And I know it can feel super overwhelming. You know, there's like 101 gear videos on YouTube, and I'm definitely guilty of that as well. Just a bit of reassurance, no matter which camera you pick, all cameras for like the last 10 years at least have been good, certainly more than good enough for you to start learning about settings and start getting into the hobby. I would urge you to just not overthink it. Don't think you have to come in and spend thousands of pounds to get into photography, because you absolutely don't. Perhaps try it on and see if you like photography for a year, and then treat yourself, but even then it's optional. If you'd like some options with fixed lenses, so that means you don't have to worry about buying any additional lenses, you just have a whole camera to take out with you and it's done. My favourite one that's newer at the moment is the Canon PowerShot V1. This has a zoom lens built in, and it's a very versatile one at that. It goes from 16mm all the way to 50mm. So in terms of like a one and done solution where you don't have to think about it and you don't have to buy anything else, it's gorgeous. The image quality is great, the video quality is great, the microphone is great. It's just a lovely little camera that is pretty pocketable. I mean, you're not going to get it in like a tight jeans pocket, but I often take it out with me in my coat pocket, and it's lovely. That is newer and a little bit more expensive, but you don't have to buy any additional lenses, so once you've bought the camera, you're done. And in terms of micro four thirds, once again, if you were looking for, you know, the more modern cameras, you have the OM System OM5 Mark II or the Mark I if you want a bargain, and then you also have my personal favourite, which is the OM System OM3. These are about as bougie as you can go in the micro four thirds everyday carry lineup, so if you are looking for something that will do everything, they're great. The OM3, for example, I talk about it loads on this channel. You know, it's weather sealed, it's made of metal, you can shoot wildlife with it, you can shoot pets with it, you can shoot portraits with it, it will do everything. It's really, really good. You do pay a bit more for it, but if you are looking to properly invest in the system, that's the most that you can spend and the best that you can get. So now you have some idea of perhaps what you want to buy. How about some inspiration to get you out there and actually using it? Check out this video next, which is one of my favourite videos of all time, actually. It's 15 years of photography advice in 15 minutes.